Collier County Board of Supervisors meeting to order, and I will inform the board that I have received a resignation from Mr. Brian Bissonette. So the board is aware of that. So we'll have to work to replace that position. With that, I ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Steve Carrianen. Here. Kay Wilson. Here. Tweed Schuman.
Here.
Stacy Hessel. Here. Randy Newman.
Here.
Mark Helwig.
Here.
Thomas Duffy.
Here.
Marshall Savitsky.
Here.
Chuck Van Etten.
Here.
Jeff Haney.
Here.
John Righeimer.
Here.
Ron Kinsley.
Sure.
Ron Buckholz.
Present.
John Sarowski.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Number 4, certification, compliance of meeting.
This meeting has been noticed to the news media and public as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Number 5, the meeting agenda. The agenda is set. Number 6, public comment. Are we gonna do the public comment with the budget and everything at once?
Skip this one.
Skip this one?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to public comment. Number 7, appointments. Veteran Service Commission, reappoint Ms. Renee Brown.
I'll make a motion to approve appointment of Renee Brown. to the
I'll
Veteran
second
Service
that.
Commission.
We have a motion by Mr. Buckles, second by Ms. Hessel to approve the appointment of
Yeah.
Renee Brown. Any discussion?
Kind of.
Fine, I won't care.
We'll vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 8, budget discussion. Mr. Mike Markren.
All right, we've looked at a lot of this many times so far, so I'm going to highlight the changes that we've had since the last meeting, that occurred at the last meeting, and we'll go from there. So if you want to pull that up, Alex. You can skip through this one, you can skip through the budget highlights. Oh, not loading yet. All right, we've looked at these first 3 slides quite a few times. The 4th slide, there is a change on here. At the last meeting, the board did elect to increase funding to Nemacolin Transit by $15,000. That is not something we can levy for, so that $15,000 had to come from somewhere else. Where we decided to take it from is our contingency. So that is reduced by $15,000. Contingency falls under other programs of general government. So that's reflected there. Any questions on that? All the changes you'll see tonight are highlighted in yellow too. So we'll try to keep it easy. So the next slide then is kind of a breakdown of different departments, large departments, and where the levy is coming from. So the first one, general fund expenditures, that did change from the last meeting, is reduced by $15,000 for that contingency fund reduction. That also reduced the levy applicable to general fund by that same $15,000. Human services remain the same. Debt service, this one I'll talk a little bit about. There is a reduction here. Remember last month I said that I think I had budgeted $3,002,000. I said that will change a little bit, but when we get actual rates and everything. Well, there was a fair amount that happened since I said that. The communications project went back to committee, so then I couldn't plan on that in this budget. Doesn't mean we can't do it next year. If we do it, the debt would be issued next year. Repayment would start at 26 versus 25. So that part is out of here. And then in lieu of that, we took a couple of 2026 CIP items, capital improvement projects, put them in 25. Because remember last few months I've talked about keeping that levy rate steady instead of having a dip and going back up. So pulling those 26 CIP items into this budget then kept that happening. Otherwise we would have had a dip from not having the communications project repayment in there. So debt service changed a little bit. Capital improvements then is down about 2.4 million because we replaced that $2.75 million project with $365,000 in additional CIP. So there's the change there. Other funds that actually increased by 15,000 because that's where Nemacolin Transit goes. So that's the inverse. General fund and other funds offset each other. And then the total budget is down that 2.3 or 4 million from the debt service or the capital projects. And the overall levy is down 17,000. That's the change in the debt service levy. Any questions on that? This is basically all the changes in a nutshell here.
I'm just curious, unless my math is way off, I don't think on the other funds, you said 15,000 bumps that way up. That doesn't, 2518 to 389?
That's the budget amount. So the change from last year is the 24 budget versus 25. It went up about 700,000, but the actual levy from the October meeting until today went up 15,000.
Okay.
So previously it was 374, now it's 389.
It just sounded like, yeah, forget.
Any other questions there? The next slide is just another breakdown of the levy. Operating levy pulls in some of those other departments together with that. Shows the increase of 0.83% there. Debt service again is the new amount down from 3.02. Special purpose levy. And then we didn't have state charges this year. So the overall levy is $14,872,693, which is an increase of 3.36%. On to the next slide. This is the levy limit calculation. And that just shows overall the bottom line there is down 17,000 from where it was at the last meeting. It was 13,319 previously. Another breakdown of the levy and the budget. Again, you can see general fund is down $15,000 from last one. HHS, rec officer, land and water all remain the same. Nemacolin Transit is up to $15,000. And debt service is down 17,000. Highways the same. No prior year unused this year. So this comes up to the operating levy, which we just looked at, which is our levy limit calculation of 13,302,821. And again, that's down 17,000 from last month. Levy components continued. Here are the libraries up on top, and then our ambulance operating and capital. Those are all levies outside of the revenue limit, which brings us to the 14,872,000. Again, an increase of 3.36%. The levy rate remains unchanged from last month because $17,000 on a $6 billion valuation doesn't even change it. So, at least not for two places. Ambulance service is unchanged. We'll kind of skip over that one. Library is unchanged from last time. The remaining outside organizations, Nemacolin Transit again is up the 15,000 to 180, which brings the overall increase for partner organizations up a little bit as well. And then the next slide just shows again the authority we have to either give money or levy for those organizations. I guess I'll stop here for a minute. We had changes at the last meeting. Any other changes anyone would like or move forward?
I would like to speak to a change to the Sherman Weiss Community Library. I've been appointed to that committee and have learned about the library much more than I ever imagined. I used to go there and check out a few books every now and then, but have found that this is an integral part of our community. And after our meeting tonight, we're in financial trouble. We had, last year, we had a significant donation in our budget of $73,000. To date, we've only had $19,700. So we're really short in that regard, and we are looking at some major changes to the building because of windows and rotting windowsills, and so I would respectfully request an addition to the library fund of $10,000.
All right. Then moving on to CIP. Next slide. So the two changes are highlighted in yellow here. The first one would be, thank you, putting in some new windows on the Huber wing of the jail. That actually coincides nicely with putting in the air handlers at the Huber wing. So it's nice to have that moved up to next year. And then the next one is an upgrade of tasers for the Sheriff's Department of $200,000. Again, Sheriff's Department, I put that in 2026. We would like to pull these two items into 2025 to offset that levy we were losing to debt service from the project. Any questions about that? This next slide is a debt repayment schedule. The only change, well, two changes. The CIP's increased that little bit there, 365, but there is not that separate debt issue for the communication upgrade project. So there was one more column on here last month. The bottom line for 2025 is about the same, but a little different configuration. And then the final slide here is that tax rate history, which again is unchanged from last month.
Chairman, I got a question for him. Mike, so what is the communication project for 25 then? Are we moving forward with what?
It was pushed back to committee. I had to get this levy set tonight, so I couldn't chance something not going through. So what we're doing is, it can still happen next year. It would be levied next year, but instead of having a repayment in 2025, first repayment would be pushed off into 2026.
Okay.
We would have needed this meeting and the December meeting, 2 meetings to do that debt issue, because that would have been a bond issue, and there was too big of a risk to not do that when I had to set the levy. Moving on, or do we, what would be the process for the
I
request?
was just gonna ask, what do we do with her request?
When we get to the budget, it's motioned, we'll see what happens with that.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on to the fees, there is one change from last month. Probably gonna let Andy take this one, but it's starting on page 13 of fees, or page 33 of the packet. And it's HHS. They did come forward with some change requests.
Yes, at the last week's Health and Human Services Board meeting, the proposed fees for next year were introduced to the committee and approved. So you can see everything that's in red was either stricken from their fee schedule or added. Some of it was just fees for things they had not documented before. Some were changes based on what they can bill Medicaid and Medicare for, like under the reproductive health supplies. And then there was also some fees that were approved by the board in January of 22 by resolution that were not incorporated prior into the fee schedule. So those were added in here. And then all of the prior fees that expired March 31st of this year, for the sanitarium work, the state agent of the state licensing were stricken, and then we already had the new schedule in there last year, so that's unchanged going into next year.
All right, moving on, the CIP, which we've already looked at. Those two changes, the 165 for Huber windows and 200,000 for sheriff tasers. The next slide is unchanged from the last meeting, and that is the FTE count for the county. Up 1.5 net from a year ago. The next slide would be the grids for both January, well, the effective date will be January 14th, 25 for a 2% increase, July 13th of 25 for 1%, and those are laid out as you can see there. We also, in this budget, have added steps. We used to stop at the control point of 11. We're recommending going 12, 13, 14, 15. Both the increased steps and the 2%, 1% increase are to keep up with our neighboring county pay schedules. And that is all I have for this section. And we would move to public hearing
Yes,
comments.
so even though we had a public hearing last month, we became aware that the public notice for the public hearing did not meet the timelines required for notice in the paper. So we have reposted, re-advertised for a public hearing tonight on the 25 budget, which the chair can open up at this time.
At this time, we'll have the public if they wish to speak, and I have 3 forms here. Mr. Steve Bingham, please state your name and address and try to stay within 3 minutes, please.
Steve Beining, 8225 Blaisdell Lake Road, Town of Draper Supervisor and Town of Draper Fire Department Volunteer. I'm here to speak about the emergency communications plan and project, and I see it has been pulled from the budget. So just to give you a little history of that background, we have spots in Sawyer County, in Draper. You can stand at the road next to a mobile tower. You have to use your mobile phone. The radios don't work. We also have spots in Draper that the mobile phones don't work and the radios don't work. So since we passed a resolution 2 summers ago that said we were having problems with our communication system, last May, County Highway E was opened up to ATV route traffic. That is an area with no mobile communication and no emergency communication. Another area that's being explored by Sawyer County that was coming up in land use is off of Doty Road on Sawyer County lands next to the Flambeau River State Forest. That is another area that has no mobile communication and no emergency communication. So I guess the favor I need to ask here is for our law enforcement folks that are on patrol, our first responders, our EMTs, our volunteer firefighters. This is a problem that has to get fixed, and it's required by law. Just to remind you that we need it fixed. We really do, before somebody gets hurt. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Donna Nucky.
My name is Donna Nucky, and I live at 3416 W County Road W in Winter. I'm here tonight because I'm the Winter Public Library Director, and last month I wasn't able to talk at the budget hearing. I know that it's proposed that our library be funded with what we requested, which is the same amount it's been the last couple of years. But I wanted to say thank you. So I hope that you can vote to finalize that budget amount. I just wanted to tell you that in addition to the funding that we receive from the county, we're a joint library with 7 municipalities. So we do receive fundraisers that we do to get some extra funds into the library. We write grants, we receive some funds from municipality supports, and of course we rely on donations. Some of the things that we do in our community for our community at the library is we offer programming for youth and adults. We have computer stations, 24-hour access to Wi-Fi. We just completed an outdoor space for community members to use, especially if they are using the library after hours. We have meeting center. We have no meeting rooms. Our library is very small. However, they use our space to meet with organizations, or we also have different entities come in and meet with clients using our space. And also, we are an information center. I mean, a lot of people were right on Main Street, so on weekends, people see the library, they come in and ask questions about their community, the history, and a lot of tourism information. I just wanted to make it short and sweet and say thank you, and I promise you that our library board and myself use the funds and try to be as fiscally responsible as we can to meet the needs in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ann Larson.
Ann Larson, 14274 W. Christensen Road, Hayward, Wisconsin. I'm the library director at the Sherman and Ruth Weiss Community Library. Wanted to say good morning, sorry. It's been a long day too. Good evening, members, and wanted to appreciate the opportunity to address you today. I also was unfortunately unable to come last time. I had to be out of town. As the new director of the library, I want to take this moment to reiterate my gratitude for the support that the county has provided to the library throughout the years. Your contributions have made an incredible difference in the lives of many residents in our community, and for that, we are truly grateful. As we move forward, I am excited about the opportunities that lie ahead. While books are the heart of the library, we are much more than a collection of shelves. We are a vital community resource offering educational programs, digital access, cultural enrichment, and a wealth of opportunities for lifelong learning in Sawyer County. The programs and services for ages birth to senior citizen we offer are designed to meet the evolving needs of our diverse community, and we are committed to continuously improving and expanding those offerings. However, to continue this program, we need your support. Our mission to enhance the library resources, update our technology, expand access to educational programs, and foster community engagement requires sustained investment. I truly believe that with your continued partnership, we can strengthen the library's role as a vital community asset and ensure that it remains a place where all people of all ages can grow, learn, and thrive. Together, we can make the Sherman and Ruth Weiss Community Library even more accessible, inclusive, and impactful. I am eager to collaborate with each of you in the coming months and years to make this vision a reality. Thank you for attention, and once again, thank you for all that you do for our library and the people of Sawyer County.
Thank you. Alex, is there anybody online? Okay. This concludes our budget hearing. Comments?
I think the next thing would be to start with the regular meeting, to consider the minutes of the prior meeting and then public comments. And then when we get to number 12, we have a couple resolutions there to deal with amending the budget and adopting the budget, which would be the appropriate time to make motions.
Number 10, consider approve the minutes of the previous meeting of October 17th. Motion by Mr. Duffy, second by Mr. Marshall Sapitsky. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. At this time, does anybody wish to speak to the board and public comments about anything besides the budget? Hearing none, thank you. Number 12, Finance Committee. Chair report. Mr. Righeimer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on November 7th. Treasurer report was written report was provided. Written reports provided and reviewed by Mr. Markren. Revenues are in good shape and expenses are in line as well. we may have to make a small transfer to HHS to cover a deficit due to lag in some grant funding. Capital Improvement Plan update, a list of CIP purchases was included, showing a total of $121,793.30. The 2025 budget presentation, Mr. Markham reviewed the highlights of the 25 budget. The transit request of 15,000 additional funds was not approved. They have a healthy fund balance at this time. The anticipated 2025 levy is $14,872,693. Board expenditures of $42,369,973. Much of this we saw in today's presentation. A motion was made by Ms. Hessel to approve the fee schedule, second by Mr. Haney to approve the proposed fee schedule, and a forward to county board motion carried without a negative vote. A motion was made by Ms. Hessel, second by Mr. Hellwig to approve the presented CIP summary, motion carried without a negative vote. A resolution to set the levy was presented. A motion was made by Mr. Hellwig to adopt the 25 budget resolution in the amount of $14,872,693, second by Ms. Hessel, motion was carried. A resolution for a bank loan was presented. Ms. Hessel made a motion to approve the resolution, second by Mr. Haney to approve the resolution and forward to the county board. Motion carried without negative vote. A draft resolution to allocate funds for a Veterans Honor Park was presented to transfer $250,000 from the Resource Development Fund to a Veterans Honor Park. A motion was made by Mr. Hellwig to approve the request, second by Mr. Righeimer, and forward the request to the admin committee and county board. Motion carried without a negative vote. Investment update. Written reports were provided showing a total of year-to-date interest and earned of $955,547. We are getting good returns on funds in our money market accounts. EMS ambulance written reports were provided and reviewed. The aging report showed a good decrease. We had below average write-offs last month. Reports from our billing agency were shared showing where billing reimbursements come from. A draft resolution showing ambulance fees and charges was shared. No action was taken on this item. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We're going to go to letter D. Allocation of funds for Veteran Honor Park. Mr. Alvarado.
Yeah, we're going to this one first as it includes a amendment to the proposed 2025 budget. So before we proceed in the budget, it'd be best to address this resolution. So this was considered at the Finance Committee. And I think it's self-explanatory to a certain extent, but the money is proposed to be moved from the Resource Development Fund to a Veterans Honor Park budget to develop a Veterans Honor Park as an appropriate way to recognize our veterans and provide a visible community gathering spot for reflection and recognition of our military men and women. It is within the scope of what a county can do as far as park development. We do maintain a Resource Development Fund, and it does have a sufficient balance in it for this transfer. And it also leaves it up to the Administration Committee to identify a location for the Veterans Honor Park and to oversee the budget, planning, and development of the park.
Ms. Hessel.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2024 for the Veterans Honor Park.
Mr. Hellwig.
Second.
So motion by Ms. Hessel, second by Mr. Hellwig to approve the funds for the Veteran Honor Park. Any discussion? Yes.
Yeah, what would be the balance left on the Resource Development Fund then after we take this out?
Mr. Markin can answer that.
And what do we normally use that fund for? Isn't that for dam repair and replacement? And are we gonna be able to cover all the dams that are failing and what we need to do in the near future?
Well, the current unassigned balance is $881,000. This budget does include pulling $400,000 out for Fish Trap Dam, which would leave $481,000. So that would leave $131,000 if this was approved. And yes, typically we've used it for dams.
Ms. Hessel.
I was just going to say, but there are grants for parks such as this, so we could reimburse those funds with grants, but you have to be in the process, like any grant, you have to do the thing and then get the money back, just like the transportation, the Sawyer County Transit, you have to do the work in order to get the grants. So same situation as we're all aware.
Mr. Duffy.
Is this the Dairy Queen property? I mean, what do they plan to have for a park? That's a pretty small lot. Yeah, are they tear that building down? And then,
there, but that's just something that I'll have to. That's just something that we'll have to work on, but right now, this is just a plan to purchase that property and tear down that building with a proposed site of the Veterans Park. So that's what we've discussed.
It looks like it's a substandard lot even, it's so small.
It's bigger than you think it is, but, I mean, it's a good opportunity to have that lot and to make it what it could be without making it overzealous, but it's a good visibility right on Highway 63. I guess anybody else would want to pitch in conversation that we had.
How did we arrive at the price?
We didn't, this is what was proposed to us.
I mean, somebody must have checked the price out.
By the seller proposed the price, and the bank provided a statement of appraisal.
Yeah.
We did not have a full appraisal on it, but it's evident that in order for the seller to sell the lot, this is the price that the,
Yeah, I'm not against parks, but the lot's so small that even parking is gonna be a problem. They don't want.
I think everything you're saying is all good considerations. I just want to point out that purposefully, there's a two-step process in this agenda, or included at different times in this agenda. So this resolution is to allocate the funds to the development of our Veterans Honor Park. It specifically does not list a location, so those are, separate questions. Later on in the agenda, there'll be another resolution for you to consider moving ahead with a letter of intent on the Dairy Queen site, for some, and that's just a letter of intent. If something does not work out with that site, then you have the ability to find another site, or if you already acquired the site, we could sell the site. But this is setting the funds aside for the park, and then the second step would be securing a site for the park.
Mr. Schulman.
Did we negotiate with the seller on this, or did we just take their first offer?
Again, it's just this is just the concept of it. We're not voting on this part of it yet.
Yeah, this is not the time to be speaking about the land right now, because we're gonna have that further on in the,
Correct. This is just for the funds itself.
yeah, just for the funds.
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I think we need to remember, we do have a beautiful Veterans Park on County Road E and K by the schoolhouse that my husband and I were at the dedication for, and there's some beautiful sculptures there, and we do have a Sawyer County Veterans Park.
I don't think we can have enough veterans support.
Ms. Cecil. Okay. Then the next step is to vote on the funds for letter D, allocation of Veterans Honor Park. Do we need 2/3 to this part or no? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we go to letter B, 2025 budget resolution.
Could I request that we do C prior to that, because C would be contained in
Yes,
B
you can
as part
request
of the
that.
budget. So before you, C is a resolution to borrow funds from our local bank or local depository. Typically in the past, we've done our CIP through a bonding process. Our goal, since Andy and I got here, was to move to this, because we will save about $35,000 in closing costs, issuance costs, by doing it locally. And we can reduce this to about a 4-month note loan instead of a 1 year, which will save probably another $40,000 to $50,000 in interest. So overall, we're saving a lot of money doing it this way. So this resolution then is part of the budget, so that would probably have to be passed before the budget would be passed.
Mr.
Make a
Reagan.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for CIP borrowing.
Mr. Hellwig.
I would second that motion.
So we have a motion by Mr. Riggheimer, second by Mr. Hellwig to approve CIP funds borrowing. Any discussion?
Yeah, real quick. So Mike, this is a short-term loan then just to cover capital improvement projects?
Yep.
Like we've done in the past, right?
Correct, it's just a different funding source.
Understand.
Repayment is still through the levy, but the issuance is different.
So we have the motion. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now let's go to letter B, please. Mr. Alvarado.
Two things on letter B then. We've had two proposals that are not in the budget as proposed. One would be the $10,000 to the library. The other would be the $250,000 for the Veterans Park. The library will affect the levy because that is one of those that we can levy for, so it would be an additional $10,000 levy. The Veterans Park is just a shifting of money from one fund to another. Affects the budget, not the levy. So I just want you to keep those in mind, and if someone makes a motion for the resolution, it would need to include those two changes.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to amend the resolution that we include the 10,000 increase for the Sherman and Weiss Library, and that we increase transit back to where it was, increase them 15,000 to 180,000.
That is in here. I was gonna mention
I
this.
thought Mr. Righeimer said they took it out.
Yeah, I was gonna clarify that, because it was in the budget as presented to the Finance Committee, and that was approved.
So that's in this resolution?
It is in there, yeah.
So then I would just amend it for the 10,000 for the Sherman and Ruth Weiss Library.
That, the 250s, excuse, do them separate, but the 250 by resolutions is in now.
Okay.
The resolution amended the proposed budget already, so.
So we're just doing the library.
Correct.
Library.
I'll second that.
That's my motion.
So we have the budget in front of us. And now with this motion and second, let's add the 10,000 for the Weiss Hayward Library.
Correct.
Just a minute. So we have a motion by Mr. Schuman to approve with the 10,000, and we have a second by Ms. Wilson. Discussion, Ms. Hessel.
Where would that extra 10,000 come from? And why wasn't it requested in the summer? I mean, like, where would that extra 10,000 come from?
It would be a levy.
I mean, but, oh, so you would just add
It
it
would be
on?
added to the levy. It doesn't change any other budget numbers. It would just increase their funding by 10,000
So,
and increase our expenditure to them.
so can you remind me what the formula is versus what they're asking?
Yes, I believe their formula for this year was it was down. I think it was like
27, does that, 127?
I think so. I have 132 in mind, but I think that was last year. So I think it was like 127.
And we're currently giving them 200,000. And so I guess I'm just, thank you.
Mr. Duffy,
You got your thing up there? You want to speak?
or is that Ms. Wilson? You two
Oh,
share?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Howard.
I'm just curious if our new director believes that they need 10,000, because she did not mention it during her presentation that, so it just kind of surprised me that she didn't mention it. So if it's a need, I would think the director would have said something. But
Well, can we ask, is it a one-term donation, or is it gonna be an annual affair, an extra 10, or what's it for?
For
The library,
our operating expenses
yeah,
that
Just
we are
operating
short.
for operating expenses.
Okay. Mr. Schuman, did you have something?
Oh, nope, sorry.
Anybody else for discussion? I'll ask the question. All in favor of the budget, 2025 budget with the 10,000 in for the Hayward Library? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So that 10,000 goes on the levy.
So that, Mike, just want to verify, they'll change the,
That will make the levy $14,882,693.
Okay. You good then? Thank you, Mr. Markran. You've done a nice job for us. I appreciate the work.
You're welcome.
Gonna go to number 13, zoning chair report, Mr. Buckles.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The zoning committee holds its monthly public hearing this coming Friday at 8:30. At last month's meeting, the committee heard 3 conditional use permits. 2 were approved and 1 was denied. There was also 2 rezone cases. 1 was postponed but rescheduled to be heard again this Friday, and 1 was approved, which will be heard next. The committee also approved 15 lot subdivision plat in the town of Glenwood. And in the zoning department, land use numbers are still up. A full year end report will be given in January, but permit numbers will surpass that over the last 16 years. The zoning committee also recommended that an ad hoc committee be formed focused around the multi-dwelling development and inconsistencies with the current zoning ordinance. The formation of this ad hoc is used to be proposed at the December county board meeting and compromise of town board supervisors. If there is no more questions, I will turn it over to Jay, and that ends my report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, hello, County Board Supervisors. We have 1 rezone case tonight. This is rezone number 24-013. This is in the town of Meadowbrook. Parcel ID 016-637-315101. It is 25 total acres, zoned Forestry 1, site address of 496 Lund Road. The request is to rezone 25 acres from Forestry 1 to Agricultural 2. The applicant is wishing to raise bees and small livestock as a hobby farm. Animals will be fenced out of the existing forest land on the property and wetland areas. The shoreline wetland district is not subject to change as part of that request. As many of the county board supervisors know, the A2 zone district does have prorated animal unit amounts. So on the property that they're requesting, the 15.5 acres of the upland area would equivalent to 5,800 pounds of livestock, which would be around 4 beef cattle if they decided to go that route. There is existing agricultural 2 property immediately to the west. There's also some agricultural 1 zone property in the immediate area, therefore would not be viewed as spot zoning. The town of Meadowbrook, as part of their comprehensive plan, shows this area as rural preservation. There was no defined definition for that, but one could anticipate that rural preservation, as similar in other towns, would require 5-acre lot minimums. Again, they're not requesting to split this lot. They're just rezoning it from Forestry 1, which already requires a 5-acre minimum, to Agricultural 2, which also requires a 5-acre minimum. So with that, the town of Meadowbrook approved the rezone request. There was 11 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners. 0 comments were received at the October 18th, 2024 zoning committee public hearing. Motion was approved, vote 5-0 with the findings of facts included in my staff report. That is all.
Mr. Buckles.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the rezone number 24-013, Mr. Chairman.
And I would second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Buckles, second by Mr. Zawinski to approve. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Kowalski.
Thank you.
All right, it's brought to my attention that on the finance, when we vote on the budget, we have to have a roll call budget. So we're gonna stop and do the roll call budget for letter B in finance.
Mr. Hellwig.
Yes.
Mr. Duffy.
Yes.
Mr. Savitsky.
Yes.
Mr. Karyanen.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Schuman.
Yes.
Ms. Hessel.
No.
Mr. Newman.
Yes.
Mr. Van Etten.
Yes.
Mr. Haney.
Yes.
Mr. Righeimer.
No.
Mr. Kinsley.
No.
Mr. Buckholz.
Yes.
Mr. Sorowski.
Yes.
We have 3 noes, and that makes 11?
11.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 14, Chair, Public Works Chair Report, Mr. Hellwig.
Okay, let's do it. The meeting is 4th of November, along with routine building and equipment maintenance, commercial line maintenance projects. Following maintenance projects are in process or were completed in October. The courthouse. In addition to the routine building maintenance, staff responded to and completed 34 business building, building grounds maintenance. Staff responded to and completed work orders, 27 preventive work orders in the past 30 days. Lead technician Mike Bestran retired. His last working day for the county was October 23rd. They've been accepting applications for the part-time maintenance position to fill this budgeted position, but they have not received any applications as of yet. For the sheriff's department, they built and delivered 15 standing target frames for the gun range. For the highway department, they're in the process of repairing office windows at the main shop in Hayward. For the ambulance department, the addition of 4th sleeping room at the Hayward Ambulance Station will be hopefully completed mid-November. For the airport, they've been servicing and repairing snow removal equipment ahead of upcoming snow season. The Surrey County Airport Management Report. October traffic slowed per usual. Next significant traffic will be forgotten at deer season. The 2025 runway project plans are starting to come into focus. Spring road ban restrictions and rain days are the two biggest hurdles for the project. 10-day notice to proceed will be given to the contractors once the bans are lifted, and the project has 30 working schedule days. Depending on when the bans are lifted, the airport will be shut down possibly June and most of July. We have a new project manager with the state BOA. His name was Colin Davidson. The master plan next step will be a long process. The design of the airport layout plan will be more likely taking 6 months. We will be in the communication with building CIP with Kaufman. Governor Evers stopped in at the airport to make a visit to the hospital in reference to funding for the new clinic. The Highway Commissioner's report. Crews have finished our paving and shoulder projects on County D. Crews completed half-mile of paving and shouldering on Drew Road, along with 3 asphalt patches in Lund and Casson Road. This work was for the town of Meadowbrook. All state plows have been calibrated and ready for winter. Maintenance is getting the county plow trucks ready. They're also getting their brine truck set up, should be completed soon. Crews will be completed brushing along with LCO on County E by LCO Development. Truck entering signs will be also installed for LCO development. Salt shed aprons were fixed in Radisson along with Hayward. These aprons have been on our inspection list to be fixed. Excuse me. Shingles on the state salt domes in Radisson and Hayward, along with the state salt shed in Winter, have been completed. Highway supervisor also received a note on the salt dome garage, a quote, on the garage openers, waiting on the state for approval. County C bridge update, left to complete is the asphalt approaches and guardrail. Supervisor will notify the AT Alliance and LCO once completed to close the ATV and detour route that was approved on County C. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? I'm gonna add that the highway commissioners are going to use some more brine on some state roads and on bridges. We don't have our own brine, but we're gonna purchase from Washburn County at this time and see how it goes. And eventually we may go more that way. Other counties are using it. It seems to work quite well. Okay. Public Safety Committee Chair report, Mr. Buckles.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Safety November meeting was held on October 31st, 2024. We had no judge update, neither judge was there. Clerk of Court's office, Ms. Kelsey advised that the 5-day jury trial ended in 4, and there's another 5-day trial scheduled for November. The Sheriff's Department, a written report was provided and summarized by Lieutenant Rapinski. Patrol call volume decreased from last month. There has been a total 12 total crashes this month with 0 fatalities for this time period, but 3 fatalities year to date, and training updates have been completed. Jail report, a written report was provided and reviewed showing an average daily population of 50 and the unemployment rate at 71%. The jail population continues to decline. Communications Center and Emergency Management written reports were provided and reviewed. Additional training will begin soon. The Communications Center has assigned a project manager. Public safety radio update, Mr. Alvarado advised that they are still working on tower options. The code enforcement specialist, revenue for the animal control has dropped with a few 2024 licenses being purchased and admissions to the pound significantly decreased. The 2025 dog license season will start January 1st. Chaz has been advised that animals at large have been going home quickly. The cooperative tribal law enforcement grant, Andy, I'll leave that one because it's on there on the agenda there. Child support department, the written report was provided. A total support due for the month of August was $1,450,140.17. Which $1,041,009, that's a big number. Excuse me. I'm not used to them big $1 million numbers. $1,041,856.45 there. Emergency services, the public safety report, written report was shared. The run volume has increased by 192 calls compared to the previous year. Narcan usage was identified in the report. Ambulance fees and charges adjustment, that was brought up to the committee, but it's been postponed until to review it. I believe, I don't know if that's on the agenda here or not, to come back to the public safety committee. So that ends my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Buckles.
I got a question for him, Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Buckles said, what is our communication project going towards? Are we gonna do anything in 25 or? I mean, we hear all these places where there's no reception, no service.
Well, here's the thing. When it comes before the public safety, we agreed to go with GenCom. It was sent to the county board, it was turned down and sent to economic development, which I don't even know why it went there, but that's where it went. It keeps getting passed down. So nothing's happening with it. Everybody is trying to wait to see what Bug Tussle's gonna do. My question is, when Bug Tussle, when we had them here, they had to have information, or had to know whether we were gonna go with them right now. But now they're saying that they can make us another offer, Andy? Or no?
Maybe, they'll be able to come back next month and pick up the conversation.
Okay.
But it would be a different, the bonding that we were talking about has passed. If we were gonna wait for the bonding, it would be a next summer, next fall, like it was this year. But the thing they talked to us about is something on the interim to get something started sooner before we commit to the bonding next year, but it's not a definite answer.
Yeah, like I say, we need to get something going. We need to get radio out there for these EMS, sheriff, fire departments and all that.
Mr. Chair?
Is our current system compatible with WISCOM? Is there a way that we can tap into that while we decide what we're doing? Is WISCOM an option?
We already use WISCOM for some of it.
But not all of it?
Right, we have
Okay.
a local network. Part of it though, part of the proposed, potential proposed plan with GenCom was to partner with WISCOM for at least one tower location.
Mr. Regheimer.
Mr. Alvarado already said we're going to be inviting them back in. I can't speak for the whole Committee of Economic Development, but we understand it's an important item we're not gonna drag our feet on it. I think we need to have more information, more, Bug Tussle come back in and come back with something as fast as we can. So, again, I think, we're not ignoring law enforcement's needs. That's a high priority. We're just trying to see if we can couple that with the rest of the county's needs for communication and safety for all.
Mr. Hellwig.
I just want to add that we are going to do everything in our power, especially the public safety and economic development, to make something, to get stuff moving in 2025. Huh?
Thank you. Letter B, Mr. Alvarado.
Letter B is the cooperative county tribal law enforcement resolution and agreement for the grant application. So this is something that Sawyer County has partnered with LCO on for a number of years. The last couple of years, essentially to streamline the grant process and the use of the funds. It's essentially we agree to the project and LCO makes the application and receives the funds direct from the state rather than having to work out details between the county, and then they use those funds for the tribal animal control program. So I think this is the third year we've done it this way. So this resolution approves the cooperative agreement and the grant application, which is attached.
Mr. Hellwig.
I make a motion to approve the resolution.
Mr. Buckles.
I'll second that motion.
So motion by Mr. Hellwig, second by Mr. Buckles to approve the Cooperative Tribal Enforcement Grant Resolution and Agreement. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 16, Land, Water, Forestry Resource Committee. Mr. Swalski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Land, Water, and Forest Resources Committee met on November 6th at 8:30. There was a petition for the creation of a Callahan and Mud Lake District public hearing. Approximately 40 citizens were present. Mr. Alvarado outlined the district creation process. Dam Committee Chair Lynn Amundson presented a PowerPoint with the information about the proposal, petition process, and the work the Lake Association and committee has done. Dam Committee member Holly Robbins discussed impacts if the dam fails or is removed. Numerous residents talked, giving their support or non-support. Mr. Alvarado directed the clerk to prepare a report on the hearing. No action will be taken at this meeting. Motion to call a special meeting of the Land, Water, and Forest Resources Committee by Ms. Wilson, seconded by Mr. Sorowski, carried without a negative vote. Minutes of the October 9th meeting were approved by Ms. Wilson and seconded by Mr. Carrianen. A written report was provided detailing activity in the Register of Deeds Department. In events, motion was made by Ms. Wilson, seconded by Mr. Carrianen to approve all 6 Hayward Lions Berkey events. Motion was carried with no dissenting vote. Land Records and County Surveyor to report. Mr. DeVries reported that Land Records received a 2025 grant to upgrade imagery pixel size. The real property report was provided to the committee. In the Sawyer County Forestry Department Recreational Trails report, Don Morotek stated that state ATV and snowmobile funds are down in 2024 and bridge rehabs are needed. In the county forestry report, Mr. Peterson reported 20 active timber sales, and the county has received $2.4 million year to date. In fall timber sales contracts, 16 out of 18 tracts received bids for a total of $788,254 sale value. Mr. Peterson recommended approval of the 16 bids. Motion to accept the bids was made by Ms. Wilson, seconded by Mr. Carrianen, and it was carried without a negative vote. The DNR Forestry Report, Mr. Fisher reported that the recent rains have eased the wildlife danger, and the DNR will be focusing on a project in the Thornapple Springs area. In the Zoning Conservation Department, Mr. Kozlowski reported on grants received and stated that the 2025 tree sale will be online shortly. Motion to appoint Tim Seidel to the Wisconsin Land and Water Board by Ms. Wilson, seconded by Mr. Carrion, and carried with no negative vote. Tax deed and foreclosure process. Mr. Alvarado introduced the draft resolution for the ordinance, but changes are being made, and he recommended tabling the discussion until the December meeting. Motion to table the resolution until December committee meeting was made by Ms. Wilson, seconded by Mr. Carrion. Motion carried. There were no board-appointed committee updates, no future agenda items, and the meeting was adjourned at 10:22. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Strelowski. Letter B, you want to handle that?
So Callahan Mud Lake District update, Mr. Strelowski gave you the update from the committee meeting last week. So just I wanted to give a little bit of comment in case the board hears about this, because it is a process to create a lake district. It's a statutorily outlined process. It's one we haven't done before. There are no lake districts within Sawyer County. There are a number of lake associations, which are like nonprofits generally, or loose organizations that work with property owners to take care of lake issues. This lake district, though, is essentially a government entity once created. It does have the ability to levy onto the property owners within the district. It has the ability to take on debt to pay for projects. So it is a significant responsibility that the board is going to have at some point to make a decision on whether or not to create the lake district. So where we're at in the process is we received the petition. We did a quick look through here to verify what we could, that it was complete. It was at least complete enough to move ahead with the public hearing. So we had to notice that in the paper and then notify the property owners within the proposed district. So the petitioners, those who have organized it, they are the ones who outlined the district. They are the ones who pursued the signatures. They had to get 51% of the eligible signatories within the district. And that's a whole discussion on who's eligible to sign. But they did get the minimum based on the review that the clerk's office did. And so we had the hearing. The report of the hearing is the next step, where it's the minutes of the meeting, but also the documentation that's been received. The Land Water Committee has to create a report to give to you as the board within 3 months of the hearing. And then within 6 months of the hearing, the board has to make a decision on whether or not to approve the district. So we have some things that were brought up during the public hearing to follow up on. Council's looking through all of the submitted petition items to verify that everything's been done appropriately. There'll be some questions going back. But yeah, it's a significant process. There was a fair number of public comments for and against. So you'll be hearing more about this over the next few months.
Mr. Hellwig.
So now, did I hear correctly that the landowners could possibly be taxed by this district? And they're already taxed by the county, and they could be taxed by this district, correct?
That is, yes, I wouldn't say it's the purpose to create a lake district, but it is one of them. They're able to levy. There's a max, I believe it's 2.5 mils is the max that they can, don't quote me on that, but that they can levy on the properties within the district. And just like a township or a school district, they have to certify a levy, provide it to the county, and then that gets added to the tax bills. Then that money is provided to the district for their purposes of debt service or operating the district.
Have they checked with landowners as far as what their position is?
Yes, I mean, and I say yes, because they had to notify, they had to contact, as part of their petition process, they had to outline a district, and that's up to them. Then they had to get the signatures of at least 51% of the landowners within that district in order for us to proceed with the public hearing, and they have to have 51% to establish the district. Now, I would just say, like, it's not, that's just to establish the district. the whole, how much are they gonna levy and the budget, that's all, once the district is set up, they deal with that.
Mr. Schuman.
Is there also a dam here that might be in jeopardy?
Yes.
That's one of the comments. There's a dam on Callahan Mud Lake that, and this is coming from our staff, is like an unowned dam. It's not a county dam. It's not a town dam, no adjacent property owners.
But it would require resource development funds to restore or work on, or no?
No, and I'm just going off the petition items. One of the things that's in the petition is that the Lake District would take ownership of the dam and make necessary upkeep and repair to it.
When you keep referring to they, is it the township or did they develop a board for the district? Who actually operates that?
There's a board of commissioners, I believe is the right terminology. That would be a point. Well, first, if we get through the process where the county says, yes, you can create a lake district and here's the boundaries, and it's passed a resolution creating it, the county's involved with appointing the first set of commissioners. And then after that, at the annual meeting, they're elected from the property owners within the district.
Okay, thank you.
It does have its own board. Just one interesting note that there was a public comment on is that unlike towns and villages and cities, the people elected to be commissioners for the Lake District do not have to be residents. They only have to be property owners within the district. So you could have a non-resident property owner that is on the board of the Lake District.
Mr. Riga.
That may have answered my question. So the signatures, the 51% are a combination of property owners and residents.
All residents,
I mean,
not all property owners, not all residents.
Not all residents, obviously, all property owners, not residents. Do we know the breakout of that?
But we have 62% that signed. Yeah.
Of those, but I mean, how many of them are residents versus non-residents?
I know it was in one of the public comments we received that they broke down the non-resident, resident property owners, but I don't have that off the top of my head. But I mean, we can determine that.
Yeah, I just think that would be important to know. I mean, we're responsible for the residents here, not the people who own property, although we love them that they come here. But that's people coming from elsewhere imposing a tax on residents in our county. It's something we have to keep in mind. So.
So that's coming in the future. Thank you. Number 17, Health and Human Services Board report, Ms. Wilson.
All right, so the Health and Human Services Committee met on the 4th of November, and our first person to approach the board was Joey Johnson from the Senior Resource Center, asking us to approve a recurring 8521 grant for the DOT, which we will be looking at in a little bit, and we discussed it and approved it unanimously. The HHS board will, or HHS employees will have an all-staff meeting in November. We also heard a retirement announcement from Joe Bodo. He will retire on January 3rd. We discussed the services list and the fee schedule and with additions and deletions, and we approved that as well. We also discussed the tourist rooming house fees and staffing resolution, and we forwarded to this board with no recommendation. The long-term care area of HHS is busy with Medicare enrollment at this time. Behavioral health had their biannual recertification on October 30th. We do not have a mental health clinician for our CCS program at this time, and the CLTC coordinator position is in the interview stage. For Child Protective Services, we have 30 out-of-home care children, 9 from the LCO area and 21 from the rest of Sawyer County. In the Youth Justice Report, there were 36 cases with 7 pending in-court cases. The Northwest Connections Child Care Certification Program they are responsible for our county certification, and we are low in providers, so we are looking for more child care providers, and they will help them get certified. It was reported that there is gang-related activity with alcohol and guns that are a significant concern to the HHS board. Under economic support, there was 1,087 food shares, 2,519 Medicaid, 1,377 Badger Care Plus cases, and 8,192 calls. In public health, it was reported that in November, there were 1,451 pertussis cases, 2 in Sawyer County. COVID is decreasing but remains elevated, and there's an increase in pneumonia alert in the state of Wisconsin. 81 students received vaccinations for flu in 5 different locations. They also reported on the community health assessment. They had a meeting of the stakeholders on October 29th, which was an excellent meeting. In the survey that was sent out and on paper, there were 615 responses. 23.7% felt that they had been unfairly treated in the community at work, internet interactions with services, applying for a job, or in public places. 61.4% had no plan for an emergency. And the areas in improvement for Sawyer County was drugs and alcohol and affordable housing. Let's see. In youth justice and out-of-home care, the expenses are astronomical and a major line item in our budget. The purchases service recap report, we will be getting funding from the state for the Wisconsin Medicaid cost report in December. We discussed and approved and moved to the board advocating for an in-person behavioral health facility for northern Wisconsin. That is all.
Thank you. Questions? Hearing none, we'll go to letter B, Senior Resource Center Resolution, Sawyer County DOT Grant Application. Mr. Alvarado.
Yes, this is a resolution that we see annually. This is the 8521 DOT grant that comes to the county, and then we provide the Senior Resource Center. It's a flow-through grant that they use for transportation of their seniors. It funds the bus that they use. It is part of the $220,000 that we provide to Senior Resource. 79,000. I don't have the amount in front of me, but the 79,000 and some change comes from the DOT grant.
Mr. Schuman.
Motion to approve resolution 8521 grant.
And I'll second the motion.
Motion by Mr. Schuman, second by Mr. Duffy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Letter C, Tourist Rooming House Fees Staffing Resolution. Mr. Alvarado.
Sure. This resolution was prepared and presented to the Health Human Services Board at their meeting in November to establish a fee schedule for the tourist rooming house license. The ordinance was adopted in October, and we will start issuing licenses. This sets the fees in the resolution or in the ordinance. It said that the fees would be they're not in the ordinance. They would be added to the Sawyer County fees and payments document, which you've already approved for next year. This would actually amend that document. So going through the resolution, the Human Services Department will administer the ordinance. This is the license fee that it refers to, which needs to be approved by the county board. This fee is expected to offset the cost of implementing, administering, and enforcing the county TRH ordinance. And due to the projected work to implement, administer, and enforce the TRH ordinance, it is necessary to create an additional staff person, which will be supported by the collected TRH fees. And so that's the other part of this ordinance, in addition to the fees, is it would approve one full-time equivalent position to be supported by the revenue. So as proposed, it has a $300 first-year TRH license. So this would be for any property that did not have a license in the prior year. So at the start of the intent for Human Services to implement would be new licenses will be issued July 1st of next year. So we've talked about the 600-ish number of TRHs. All 600 of them are going to have to get a first-year license next year. And then a renewal for every year after would be $150. And if there's any reinspection or modification to their license annually, it'd be another $150. And an example of a modification would be if they're going to increase capacity, that would require a modification for the $150. So the other further resolved is that it's the one full-time equivalent position. It would not necessarily be, it could end up being two part-time positions, but it would be the equivalent of at least one full-time, or excuse me, of one full-time. The fees are effective January 1st, 25, and that would update our fee and payment document effective to that date. And that the implementation plan for Human Services is that the first TRH licenses will be issued starting April 1st of 25 and expire June 30th of the following year, which is the expected annual cycle that people can start applying in April for renewals or new licenses. They're issued, they're effective July 1st and expire June 30th of the following year. And this was heard by the Human Services Board. But the motion was to send it to the county board without a recommendation for approval or denial, but for the county board to take up. Yeah, this is just a majority vote.
Mr. Schuman.
Motion to approve establishing fees for county tourist rooming house license.
Mr. Righeimer.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Mr. Schuman, second by Mr. Righeimer to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Letter D, inpatient behavior health facility resolution.
So as most are aware, this is a significant issue for our mental health clients with crisis and mental health issues within the county. Is that when we need to have a individual placed in a secure facility or behavioral health facility, typically the closest place to go now is Winnebago and Oshkosh, Green Bay, or Madison. There used to be some beds in the Eau Claire area, but with the closure of Sacred Heart Hospital, that option was eliminated. So this resolution has been circulating amongst counties within Northwest Wisconsin. I believe Polk County is the one who originated it, but it is asking or advocating to the state and others for the establishment of an inpatient facility in northern Wisconsin, so that the time we tie up in transport and moving people is less significant and people can stay closer to home.
Mr. Howie.
I would make a motion to approve this resolution.
And this resolution is to have it north of Highway 8. Mr. Duffy. So we have a motion by Mr. Howie, second by Mr. Duffy to have it north of Highway 8. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 18, economic development, UW Extension, Mr. Righeimer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on November 4th. University of Wisconsin, Wisconsin Extension Department report, Ms. Bellatrus advised that a new support staff individual has been hired in the extension. Ms. Gregorian provided additional updates and advised that the clean sweep program was completed. Nearly 200 cars went through the service. That was for the needles and things like that. She assisted LCO Economic Development Corporation complete a strategic plan. Opportunities for local producers to export overseas are being discovered. And so she's working with to help, specifically north of 8, I think is the mission there. Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau, a written report was provided and reviewed by Ms. Simmons. Ms. Simons advised that the vacation guide is now at the printers. She reviewed highlights of marketing activities and statistics. As of late, our county is getting more and more visitors from the Chicago area than the Minneapolis area. The ATV and UTV trail activity increased over 240% this year. Economic Development Corporation report, posters of 2 upcoming EDC events were shared. Mr. Lamoro reported that the business incubator is very busy. They recently applied for a small business development grant, which would provide funds for marketing and technical assistance. He reviewed the upcoming educational events that they are bringing to the community. The Winter Library provided a calendar of events. Motorized trail and non-motorized trail report, Ms. LaRue advised that there are some trail closures coming up due to hunting season and pending winter conditions. Once snow grooming begins, only ATVs that are 900 pounds and under are allowed on county trails. The state has approved only 1 of 3 bridge repair projects due to funding. Mr. Duffy presented an oral report on non-motorized trails, stating that the 2025 LWC has been moved, Lumberjack Games has been moved from July 17th to the 19th due to scheduling conflicts. Berkey registrations are up to 10,000 with a limit of 11,000 and is expected to hit that limit easily. A quick review of other ski-related activities was given. Broadband updates, BEAD updates, and endorsement requests. Mr. Alvarado advised that there are no BEAD projects to consider at this time. He shared the Wisconsin preliminary BEAD project unit map of the area. For the county connectivity cell broadband public safety network, Mr. Alvarado reported that they are continuing to work on the radio project details with GenCom to try to get tentative terms in place. He did talk to Bug Tussle to see if there is a partnership opportunity available, and next year it can be reviewed again. Representatives can come back to the county to open discussions in December if we so choose. Mr. Ferguson of the Historical Society reported that they are closed November and December except by appointment. In January, they start winter hours of Thursdays 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They hosted the local trunk or treat this year in October. The restoration of the totem pole at the Hayward Library is nearing completion. Committee updates. Ms. Hessel attended a 100-year anniversary party at one of our area lodges, which I think is the Spider Lake Lodge. Mr. Carriano reported on his meeting with the ICAA and the Hayward Head Start program. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions? Nice job. Number 19, County Administrator report. Our County Administrator.
So the first thing under here, item A, is Highway 63 property purchase letter of intent for acquisition. So in the packet, originally was the purchase letter of intent that the administration committee considered at their meeting last week for the property at 15785 US Highway 63 for $154,977.80. That is an amount that's good through December 2nd. The motion at the committee was to, let's see here, was to move ahead or to enter into the purchase letter agreement with as outlined. There was a motion and a second and approved by the committee. So I did tell them I would put that in a resolution form, which I put a hard copy on your desk and was put in the packet late today. I did that just because I think because we're purchasing property, it'd be a little easier to act on a resolution than to act on the motion. But just to go back to some of the conversation earlier, the property in question is the former Dairy Queen site here in Hayward. I can pull up. Just give me 1 second. I think probably everybody is aware of where it is. It popped up on the screen here. And I did not include a specific intent in the resolution, but obviously the discussion has been to be the site of the Veterans Honor Park. There has been the discussion at the committee. There was no motion to go back or to go and negotiate. It was apparent that this is the price based on, I think, the bank needing to, or in order to release the property. We have not done much due diligence outside of there is an estimate for demolition of the properties that we have. And I should say it's for the letter of intent. The letter of intent outlines a definitive agreement to be developed once this is signed and we proceed on the property. So I can maybe answer questions, or the committee can answer questions, but my recommendation would be to bring the resolution onto the floor, and then you can amend or debate the resolution rather than the motion itself that was in the administration committee.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to enter into purchase letter of intent.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Ms. Righeimer to bring the motion forward, second by Ms. Hessel. Do we need 2/3 vote?
2/3, yeah. And this, I guess, because this resolution was not acted on in committee, it would be a 2/3 vote to bring the resolution on the floor, and then you can debate the resolution.
So a roll call vote?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I see on the picture there that there's some cars there and an obvious parking lot. Is that public parking? That's private parking. So where would people park for this?
Are we discussing the project now, or are we just?
The motions.
The motion is to bring it on the floor, so let's take care of that first. If we get it on the floor, then we can talk about that kind of stuff, okay? We have a roll call vote.
Okay, Jeff Haney.
Yes.
Mr. Righeimer.
Yes.
Mr. Kinsley.
Yes.
Mr. Buckholz.
Yes.
Mr. Sorelski.
Yes.
Mr. Karyanen.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Schuman.
Yes.
Ms. Hessel. Yes. Mr. Newman.
Yes.
Mr. Helwig.
No.
Mr. Duffy. Mr. Savitsky.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you.
Oh, you're right, I missed you, thank you. My vision's getting bad this time of night. Thank you.
Mr. Schuman, did you? Who wants to start the conversation? Do you want a conversation? Mr. Righeimer.
Yeah, I think, I'd just like to say that I think some people may assume this lot is too small. I think it all depends on what you're trying to achieve here. This is the first I've heard that we have a veterans park somewhere in the county. And I think that's the point of this lot, is the visibility of it. This is not, at least what I understand or see, this is not a park per se to people to picnic in and play volleyball and things like that. This is a memorial to the veterans of Sawyer County. So that visibility on 63 is perfect for such that people know that it's there, honoring our veterans. It's also a good location because it's right, not even a stone throw. I mean, it's a quick walk from the Veterans Center. So you have that combination there where, you know, we would probably enter into some MOU where they would help maintain that facility, because those are things you got to think about. What kind of park you're going to have, who's going to take care of it, what kind of effort that's going to be, and does anybody know where it's at? So I think, you know, I think from that perspective, when I looked at it that way, I thought this was a good way to go forward to honor our vets in a highly visible area, and it'd be a much prettier site than what's sitting there now, which is a decrepit Dairy Queen building.
Mr. Helwig.
Do we have any idea of what the plan is? Is there gonna be a statue there? Is there gonna be a wall there? whatever, I mean, for people to come and see. That's my issue is it's very small. I mean, I'm a veteran. You look at some of the other places in the area, and this is tiny compared to, like, say, even Spooner. This, like I said, do we know what the plan is?
Well, I think we had discussed, and in the resolution, it said that the admin, I mean, I don't know why everybody's looking at me for these answers, but in admin, we discussed having it as a plan with the admin committee, so that's where it would lie, it would be what is put in there. So that is, good question, but I think it would be up to the admin meeting. I believe that you were in part of that discussion with finance, so I guess I'm confused with your questions, but.
Well, this was never brought up in finance. The purchase of this property.
That was brought up in administrator, that's fine.
Right. No, I just want to look, forget it.
We aren't called to make a
I think there's a
judgment
full
on the
plan
purchase.
yet for it as far as what it
Just a
would look
minute,
like.
just a minute, please.
We aren't called to make a judgment on the use of the property. It is small, and the fireplace company owns the parking lot behind it. So there is no parking except on the side street, but I guess they're asking for the money and not our judgment on whether it's a
couple
investment or not.
or something.
Why wouldn't we have negotiated on the price? I mean, that building sat vacant and nothing for years, and yet we're gonna give them what they want?
It was
It's been
brought
on-
to the administrative committee with
It's been for
this.
sale with Gary Nathan for over 5 years.
That's the price he brought forward. He had reasons behind it he shared. Okay? Yes.
I just want to clarify, Mr. Duffy, did you say that the stove company owns that parking lot right there?
They do,
So it's just the building itself?
building in the side street. You can't park on the 63.
Right. So, but it's just that little area there, that building, and then the parking area where those vehicles are?
No. That's owned by the-
Not that where the vehicles are, no.
not included, that's part of the-
It's just the area outlined in the blue outline. You can make out the
sorry?
blue.
In the teal there?
Teal.
So it's the two buildings, and it butts up against there. And I understand, I mean, maybe,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yep.
I thought that was theater that was
No.
button up against, so you're like the white area?
no, where the teal is, those two buildings there.
Okay, yeah, all right. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mr. Regan.
And I think once again, it's the visibility of the location where it's at. I mean, you have parking, I mean, with the exception of the peak downtown Sawyer vacation times. I mean, people can park on Main Street. There's the parking lot there in the corner by the Berkey office and so forth.
To follow up on Mr. Schumann's question, do we care whether it's a good price? Do we care whether it's twice as much as it's worth? I mean, what concern is that of ours?
Well, there was an estimate given by Dustin Beckwith of what the value was, and this price is less than what the sellable value is my understanding, correct?
Yes. Okay, anybody else have any comments, thoughts? Anything you want to share? Does this need 2/3 vote or majority?
It's only a majority because it's just a letter of intent. There'll have to be a definitive agreement brought back to the board.
So we're ready to vote? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Buckholz?
Yes.
Mr. Kinsley?
Yes.
Mr. Sorowski? Mr. Van Etten?
Yes.
Mr. Haney?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy? No. Mr. Savitsky?
Yes.
Mr. Karyanen?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson? No. Mr. Schuman?
No.
Ms. Hessel?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Helwig?
No.
And Mr. Righeimer? Yes. Did I get everybody? Looks like, so we have 9, yes? 3, 4 no's.
Motion carries. Thank you. Letter B, administrative report.
There's more than 4 no's. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's see who, I have a no for Wilson, Schumann, Helwig, Duffy, and who else?
Sarowski.
Oh, Sarowski. Oh, yep, I didn't see him. Yep, there he is.
Still carries 10-5. 10-9-5. 4. Mr. Alvarado.
Yeah, not a ton of updates otherwise from our administrator's report. Still recruiting for a few positions. The biggest thing right now is with our elected, our constitutional officers, all becoming new January 6th. We're going through and we've already hired a deputy register of deeds. They're interviewed for a new deputy in the clerk's office, and we have the real property lister position posted and are recruiting applicants for that. We do have a part-time position in maintenance and position in children's long-term support and human services yet to fill. We acted on the tourist rooming house fee schedule tonight. We do have a tentative implementation plan that's been worked up that will be reviewed again by Human Services Board next month. The tax deed process will be changing. We did receive a template resolution from WCA, but in talking with some of our counterparts in other counties, we're all looking at potential customization of that ordinance for each county based on how we conduct our land sales from tax deed properties. Already talked about the Lake District formation. Nothing new from last month at the airport. Broadband, I think Mr. Righeimer kind of summarized it there. We're still waiting. We know we're going to have some endorsement requests for the BEAD funds. Just when we're going to get them in is unknown until they issue their final project units. If anybody's interested, there is a broadband summit at Northwood Technical College on Thursday for the kind of the Chippewa Valley and Northwest Wisconsin regions. Some of the providers will be there, as well as some school districts, and talking about more so about the implementation and use of broadband in areas. 2025 TAD grant has been submitted for the treatment and diversion programs. CJCC is growing their capabilities into the youth and truancy issues, youth justice issues. Nothing really new on facilities. Just, I know we've talked about it a few times tonight with the public safety radio network. I just want to be clear on that. The reason it's not in the budget is that we would have had, it's primarily in there for the debt service portion, which we have to make a debt service payment next year. Without having a project that we are needing to finance, we can't have it in the budget, basically. But if you decide next month that there's a project you want to move ahead, the borrowing would happen after the first of the year. I don't see any other way to take on that project without doing some borrowing. So you could go ahead and we'd do the borrowing in 25, and then it would be included in the 26 budget from the debt service standpoint. So that's primarily the tie to the budget. Beyond that, I think it's just, we'll continue to work with both committees. I know we want to move this ahead. I just had communication with WOJB last week to see where they're at. They're still assessing their tower and our request to be on that tower. Ms. Hessel asked about Wiscom, which I guess I want to double back on that too. I mean, we are tied in with Wiscom. Wiscom is being rebuilt statewide. And I think maybe we talked about this a number of meetings ago, is that this will probably be the last area of the state where Wiscom rebuilds their network. They're starting down the Milwaukee area, so we don't want to wait for them necessarily. But we do know that they need towers in this area, so we've reached out to them to see about any interest in co-locating a tower, in particular on the east side. Our biggest tower needs are in the southern portion of the county, in southeast east area, so like Loretta, Meteor, Meadowbrook area. Those are where we'd have to either lease tower space or build towers. So we are talking any lease alternatives, that would be able to use quicker. Even if we have to build our own towers, that's a 9-month at best timeframe to get it licensed, permitted, and built. So we're trying to see if there's any options, and while we're still discussing our goals for the project, to see what options we have for towers. That's with the Buck Tussle option even. They have a couple towers in the county already that they've either are operating or permitted. And so is there a hybrid where we could get on those towers or lease space? And then anything we want to do as a county with them for the bigger project of a fiber network or a fiber ring and multiple tower sites could be phased in later. So I mean, those things are still being worked on, and we're still trying to keep that going. Yeah, I think that's kind of the highlights for me.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Yes.
Andy, so if we're waiting for another approach from Bug Tussle, will they approach that through the economic development, or will they bring it to the county board?
I think the plan was to have them meet with economic development first and flush out the plan and then bring it. It's gonna have to come back to the board.
Right, right, and I just want to make sure that they were gonna go before the economic development, because that's where it's going back to.
Right.
So, okay.
Public safety?
No.
Anybody else have anything? Questions? Number 10, outside committee report updates. Mr.
Yep. Sawyer County Lakuta Ray Transit had their regularly scheduled monthly meeting today. We were only missing Mr. Helwig. Other than that, we had a full board. Currently, we have 30 employees. We're currently working on implementing a monthly unlimited pass. Cost will be $40 a month for regular fare and $30 a month for reduced fare. We're still working on all the logistics on how it will work best with our dispatching system. We would like to have this implemented, though, to start in January of 2025. We also are exploring the possibility of bus advertising. This has been previously an internal policy that prevents any form of advertising on the buses, but the transit board is looking at this to change and support this paid advertising on our buses. This will allow the transit to generate additional revenue, and we hope to start this with advertising early in 2025. As of the end of October, we had given 47,848 rides, which is 1,540 rides over what we were at this time last year. In October, we had 64 new riders, and the mobility manager has scheduled 15 MTM medical rides. The 2023 audit report was presented last month by Clifton Larson Allen, and it was formally accepted by the board without any significant findings. As of today, we have 20 buses in our fleet, 4 of which are over 200,000 miles. In 2016, the fleet consisted of 29 buses. The increase in cost of buses limits us to what we were able to buy with the grants we received from WSDOT. And it is also taking longer to get buses once they are ordered. The transit will be closed for all services on Thanksgiving Day, but will resume services the next day. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Unless our director has anything to add? Okay, thanks, Gary.
Mr. Steve Carey.
Thank you. I'll be attending board meetings of both the Indian Head Community Action Agency and Northwest SEP next week. So next month, I'll have more to say. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Yes, Ms. Hessel.
I'm just wondering if we can make it a feature in one of the committees, like have a stance on what we're doing for broadband and expansion, like what we're gonna do as a county, if we could have that as a discussion.
You certainly can. Mr. Haney.
Mr. Helwig mentioned Highway C before. I just want to let everybody know the bridge is done and Highway C is back open.
The inspection's on the 14th, but yes, it's open. For those that don't know, at the administrative committee meeting last week, I received a letter from our Korean War veteran. And he praised our veteran office of Mr. Gary Elliott and Nicole. And his praise of them so much that he helped him. He wrote me a 2-page letter written that I could read. I was very impressed. Those that haven't seen it, we have it around here. So with good help and good connections, Romaine Quinn's office helped, and we got a written plaque, like, for Mr.
Earl Betcher.
Betcher to give to Gary and Nicole. At the same time, Gary and Nicole gave Mr. Betcher a plaque, and they both received flags. And I've heard a lot of positive things about that. So I think that's a good way to take care of one of our veterans, and we got recognized for that in our office. Thank you. Number 21, correspondence reports, conferences, meetings. People, it's almost deer season. The deer are thick at times on the road. Be careful out there. Thanksgiving's coming. Enjoy the holidays. You have something?
I do. I need to see, these people need to stay for signatures. Jeff Haney, Chuck Van Etten, Ron Buckholz, Ron Kinsley, Kay Wilson, Steve Karyanen, Tweed Schuman, John Sorowski, and Marshall Savitsky. Everybody else can leave.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you kindly. Good job.